What's the date?
What's the date?
What's the date?
What are we celebrating today?
Happy Best Friends Day. I am not celebrating this because Umnia Saleh threatened me to do it, but
She doesn't have a gun pointed at your head.
not at all. Not at all. Well, if you don't know who Umnia Saleh is, she's from Future Talk. If you guys missed out on it, you can always check out their podcast as usual. Just search up Future Talk. But let's go back to what is at hand right now. So obviously, friends and best friends are an integral part of anybody's life. Everybody needs some sort of support group, a whole support circle. But let's steer clear from the usual best friends are great and best friends are amazing. I have a question that has always plagued my mind, and I think it's part of growing up and trying to understand yourself and other people and learning that other people are probably very different than you. And the question is, how do you know if a person is your best friend? And also, what if you look at someone and you regard them as a best friend, but they don't?
That's a really, really hard question to ask. And it almost feels like it takes a lifetime to figure that out because I guess everybody has a different interpretation to what friendship means and what even a closer friendship means.
Yeah.
For me, a best friend is someone who's been there almost since the beginning. I wouldn't say since the beginning, but has been there for the long haul and has been there since the darkest moments and your best moments. And is still there with you, and then someone that you're comfortable with, somebody you can sit in a room with. You don't have to have, little chatty talk and empty conversations. You can just sit there and be able to enjoy each other's company. That's my interpretation of
That
it.
makes a lot of sense, but there are times where you have this sort of relationship with somebody, but they still don't regard you as a best friend, or do they see you as a close friend or a good friend? Some people even, are so, I wouldn't say secluded, that would be too extreme, but they're so wrapped up in their own world that they probably see you as an acquaintance, even though you are quite open with them. Maybe that person themselves, if that person regards you as a best friend, maybe they're just the type of person who is super open with everybody. And you're like, is that person just a very nice person and they just love talking all the time? Or are they actually my best friend? And I think it's a very important of growing up, as I was saying earlier, because then you kind of learn to set your own boundaries and also learn to accept other people the way they are. But I feel like a surefire to figure out if somebody's your best friend or not is to upright just tell them, you're my best friend. And then just wait for them. Just wait for them. What are they going to say? Are they going to say, yeah, you too? And I'm like, what do you want? What are you trying to say? What's your point? You've always been best friends? I thought that was implied. Or would they be like, actually, I don't see you that way?
I'll be honest, I don't know if I can handle those three words.
That's worse than I love you, isn't it?
It is, because there's so much weight behind it. And if somebody ever says that, I know they're expecting a reply and one that, is in their favor.
Not in their favor. It's your way of trying to figure it out. Because why go towards, all those guessing games when you can straight up ask somebody like, you're my best friend, right? Are we best friends? And then just have that conversation.
I've never done this before. I've never went up to my friends and say, yeah, are we good friends?
Are we good? Are we Gucci?
I guess because we're kind of masculine, so we never really say those kind of things to one another.
Because
sometimes we say you're like a brother to me kind of thing.
But what if somebody actually, you think that you're their best friend, but they don't see you as that? And it becomes an issue because then you start depending on them as, when you have a best friend, you have certain expectations, right? And then imagine they don't uphold to them. That's going to hurt a lot. Don't you think that?
I just wanted to celebrate Happy Best Friend Day, but I think after this,
existential crisis.
I need to question some of my friendships. I think I might, after this show, give a few people some phone calls just to check. I'm not insecure about it. Just
not at all. But honestly, even if you were, that is completely valid because again, when you fall into those fall to the deep end or those problems, and you need somebody out there, and you expect that person to be a best friend because a friend is there for you, but a best friend is supposed to be there for you even beyond that. I'm not saying they have to be at your beck and call. That's kind of unfair. But there should be some mutual understanding where that person is ready to kill for you to an extent, figuratively speaking.
Yeah.
So they're supposed to be there for you. So imagine that you're like, it's your lowest, deepest moment. And I love the music is so happy. But your lowest, deepest moment, and you go to that friend and you call them up and they're like, yeah, actually, I'm out right now. I'm out, I don't know, Outback Steakhouse right now, and I'm having a blooming onion. I don't have time, but I will call you later. That might be, especially if it's something really, really dire and serious. That would hurt a lot. So this is why it's like, I'm not even kidding. This is my another formula for me that I'm exposing myself right now. I just wait for somebody to be like, you're my best friend, and I'm like, okay, yes I am.
All right.
Yes I am.
Man, this is a really interesting discussion, and one that I think I'm going to be thinking about right after this segment. But I think I'll ask you, Aisha, are you my best friend?
You know what? Let's take a short break. Let's take a short break.
Oh my God.
We need to talk about our next story about Loki. We're running out of time. The segment was too long. Stay tuned to the afternoon Karak, only here on Pulse 95.
Pulse 95.
Since before WandaVision debuted, the Marvel Studios and Disney have been going crazy with the PR campaigns and the various interviews with the actual actors and actresses, as well as Kevin Feige. We've had several of them so far across the Falcon Winter Soldier and WandaVision. And now he is back to promote Loki along with Tom Hiddleston. And I believe I would say shocking but not shocking thing he says is that when you talk about Loki, the TV show, he says that it's tremendously important, perhaps will have more impact on the MCU than any shows thus far, which is a kind of interesting. I thought that WandaVision would be at the top, the most...
it certainly felt like that.
Yes, because we know for sure WandaVision is setting up whatever is going to happen up until Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness. That was expected. But the fact that you're saying that Loki is probably more impactful, even though I feel that Loki would come in second, it's going to be a lot more, just crazy things Loki is getting into. But we also know that Endgame and Loki's story is what kind of kicks off the multiverse way before WandaVision did.
Yeah, and with the show coming out tomorrow, I think the reason why Kevin Feige is saying this, and this is some bold statements, is because the show is going to explore a lot of, I'd say, time traveling. Loki's going to be part of this. These people who have to keep the space and time balanced out. So we're going to see him hopping into different dimensions, different timelines, and a lot of those, I think, as every episode goes on, wherever he is traveling, whatever scenario he's in, it's actually going to create like a ripple effect for future Marvel shows and movies of some kind. So I think it's just that Loki's presence in this show is going to be very impactful, and I think that's going to be so cool.
Oh, absolutely. And if you think about the multiverse, and maybe he's the reason why the multiverse goes haywire, because we thought that perhaps it's Wanda's powers that trigger it, but maybe if Kevin Feige is saying that it is Loki, that is the show Loki is the most impactful so far, so perhaps he's the reason. I mean, he's already jumped into a multiverse of some sort.
Yeah.
Is he jumping back and forth? Because we kind of did see specific scenes a long time ago in some of the promotion, and we've seen that he jumps from one place to another, lots of time jumping. So perhaps, just like you said, he does something where it goes even crazier, and even the group that are supposed to keep everything intact kind of just lose Loki. I mean, that's what Loki does. He's a trickster. And we also know that there's perhaps we're gonna get Lady Loki as well, and maybe Kid Loki. I mean, Lady Loki is more confirmed than Kid Loki, but
because of the production set photos.
Yes, we saw some production set photos, and we saw a person, an actress who we believe could be Lady Loki. So it's all excitement all around. It's coming out tomorrow, which means that our weekly MCU show reviews are coming back, but instead of Sundays, they're going to be on
Wacky Wednesdays.
Thursdays.
Oh, it's going to be Thursday.
Because we need to
Yes.
wait until it comes.
U.S. time zone.
Unless we somehow manage to watch it before, which is unlikely. But we'll figure it out, guys. Don't worry. We're going to talk about
Time-bending Thursdays.
Time-bending Thursdays. I really like that.
All right.
Well, guys, stay tuned for that tomorrow or after tomorrow. We're going to keep you guys, well ahead. Coming up next is that Microsoft Excel Esports tournament. I cannot wait to talk about this because, if anything, I know that Excel is a nightmare to everybody. So how are they turning it into something so cool? Coming up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Pulse 95.
Out of all of Microsoft's program, which one do you think is a nightmare for you, especially growing up, back when we were in school and we had to do every single one of them for IT or for the IT final? Which one is your nightmare?
I took IT in high school and in college, and every time they brought in Excel, I always dread it. I can do PowerPoint, I can do Microsoft Word, I can do all these other editing softwares, but pin me in for an Excel, I back out every time.
I think maybe some people might, from our generation, from a couple of years ago, millennials to say the least, they probably understand our pain, especially if you come from a British curriculum background. If you've done your IGCSE, then you've done the whole front page, Excel. What is the other one with databases? I'm trying to remember the name.
I don't know myself. I don't think I ever took that.
That was a long time ago, but yeah, we do the databases. Even the databases were much easier than Excel. Even though if I asked you right now, just like how I'm wondering right now, what is the name of that program? I cannot remember it. We even did Microsoft logo with the turtle. Every single one of them will never ever compare to Excel. So my question is, how on earth is Microsoft, the official Twitter account for Microsoft announced that there's going to be a Microsoft Excel Esports tournament. How do you take something so miserable, no offense, because I know a lot of people who are working in the corporate world also hate Excel. How are we going to take that and turn it into something as fun as an esport tournament? And is it really esports?
Well, the thing about it's officially called the Financial Modeling World Cup Multiplayer Battle.
Goodness.
And it's
does it have like anything shorter, maybe an acronym?
It's just called FM World Cup.
Oh, okay, that works out.
So this one's actually, it makes it somewhat of an esports-esque because it is sponsored by Microsoft and AG Capital. And it's being, the whole event is being hosted by 2 employees from Microsoft. And basically what they're doing is they're getting like some of the top financial modelers in the world. Here's some of the candidates right here. Look at these guys.
Question, what's a financial modeler?
A financial modeler, I think, is the kind of person that you bring in to solve very complex problems in terms of like accounting and maybe, let's say trying to organize all sorts of, statement of accounts and stuff like that. I don't know. But these are the guys who basically handle a company's finances inside and out.
So this means that this is a glorified math competition.
In some way, but Excel does require a lot of skill. Just like in esports, you need to have that really, really competitive skill to be able to be part of that, that team. So I think I can see the culture in it. I can see the competitive culture that.
Do you though?
I mean, listen, I'd love to see these guys go all out, just trying to solve some really crazy problems on Excel. And I think there's also a matter of speed, accuracy, and precision. So that's something that people could watch. I can see the entertainment value. I can see people, screaming and cheering for some of these modelers, basically beating whatever problem they put out there on the screen.
No.
Listen, I think it's cool. And I think also, more than anything, office workers can become, in a weird way, a different form of a professional gamer.
Here's my issue with it is not the entertainment factor. It's the fact that it's called an esport tournament.
Well,
it's not esports. I mean, there was already an issue with trying to label video game competitions as esports. Like, there was a lot of stigma a long time ago. We overcame that, and now you're telling me that a Microsoft Excel tournament is considered an esport?
Because it has sponsorships. And when it has sponsorships, it becomes somewhat of a
So, okay,
esport.
if they sponsor you and I right now just to chat, is this an esport, Mikhail?
No, because it's not a competitive environment.
Okay, then you and I just go head to head and we argue throughout. I don't debate. Is a debate an esport tournament?
No.
See,
No.
this is the issue. When you say esport, you're talking about some sort of game, whether it's, a board game, a tabletop game, a video game. Has to have that kind of factor. This is a competition. You can't call a spelling bee sports.
I think because, it gets the term esports because it is it's a digital tournament,
Okay, but we talk about, if you do a virtual spelling bee, that's not esports. Even if it is being.
Okay.
You see what I mean?
All right.
So they're just trying to label things that aren't, that aren't really
Honestly,
there.
if it gets the views, then, no argument. to
I'm
be
absolutely
honest.
not against that. I'm excited about it for them, but do not call it esports because honestly, when I think about it, I don't feel like it's esports at all. But again, we need to wait and see when the FM World Cup happens. Very exciting for everybody who loves Excel or whoever, like Mikhail and I, who are very intrigued by all of this. We're going to be taking a short break. Then we're going to move on to our next MCU rumor. And this one is about Black Panther, Wakanda Forever. They found their Namor, perhaps. And you know what? I think it can actually work because he kind of does look like the character. We're also going to be talking about Netflix's Shadow and Bone that's been renewed for a second season and so much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
This is Pulse 95.
The new show, Shadow and Bone, that premiered back in April. We got the chance to watch it and review it. Aisha got the chance to read the book, and she's in the line where, maybe the books tell a better story than the adaptation itself.
Well, let's just say this. I had a rant, a very long rant during that episode. And if you want to check it out, as usual, check out our podcast, Afternoon Karak. Just search it wherever you listen to podcasts. And if you want to see me have that full-on rant, of course, check out our YouTube channel, Pulse 95 Radio. It is also uploaded over there.
And despite Aisha's mixed feelings about the show, Netflix has garnered over 55 million views worldwide for it and has just announced that they're going to be doing a second season for Shadow and Bone. They actually got some of the cast to just post up on their Twitter, that they're excited to come back and be working on, just being part of the Grisha verse, as they call it. The executive producer, Eric Heiserer, is going to continue his role for the upcoming season. He says something that's quite funny. He says, "I'm honored and thrilled to return to the Grisha verse and continue the stories of these endearing characters, particularly Milo." And I kind of chuckled on this one because Milo is the GOAT in the show. I'm like,
he's an important character.
he is. Like, weirdly enough, when I was watching, I'm like, Milo kind of MVP here. Like, he just comes in the right moment. So I think I know when he said that, I think he gets it and the fans get it. And I like that there's this little running joke that is going to continue with the future seasons. Also, what's also great, and I think maybe Aisha's a little iffy about this, that the executive producer is going to continue working on it alongside with the novelist herself, Leigh Bardugo.
Yeah.
And she also says, she's like, I've been writing Grishaverse for the last 10 years now, and I'm so thrilled to keep the adventure going. But I think Aisha maybe rolled her eyes just quite a bit,
Listen, I love Leigh Bardugo. I love the way she writes. The books are just beautiful. They're very short and they're very precise. The sentences are very simple, but they hit in your soul. And that what makes the Grishaverse so indulgent and beautiful. I feel like everybody who read the books first might feel that she kind of missed the mark with the show. But at the same time, we know that there are a lot of people who love the cast. And in addition to that, the people who did not read the books were still very entertained. I'm just incredibly intrigued on how she's gonna tackle what's happening in the Grishaverse because, okay, I did finish it, so that's on me. I finished the book, but not the show. I had to drop the show for two reasons, and that also goes back to how she can continue it because she combined two different books as well as some, creative additions, if you want to call them that, to the story. So since she's kind of strayed a bit further or away from the actual story, canonical story in the books, how is she going to tackle it? Especially since the Grishaverse, or at least the Shadow and Bone series, is a trilogy, whereas the Three of Crows and whatnot is a duology, so it's only 2 books. So what is happening there? How is she going to adapt each for the TV show? And also, is this the second season? Is this going to be what wraps it up, or is she going to have one more season, or 4th or 5th? Because they did say that they wanted as many seasons as possible. I think it was like, I think the producer said they can get 5 seasons out of whatever they have written so far. So that is great for them. And perhaps even a spin-off or 2. But yeah, excited for everybody who loves the books and also loves the show. Again, if you're just like me, did not enjoy the show but love the books, I'm just gonna say at least the cast is incredibly lovable. That is exactly why I cannot really bash the show ever. Like as far as I want to bash it further than I'm doing right now, I really can't, because the cast is lovely. Lee Bardugo is lovely. Everybody else making this is lovely. So it's just a fun experience for everybody, whether you're a fan or you are part of the actual cast. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about a not in the news story that is a little bit sad. Honestly, very sad, because a little child, an 8-year-old, he had to sell his prized Pokemon cards to pay life-saving vet bills. That is just upsetting. But we're going to be talking about that coming right up next, right here on the Afternoon Karak.
Not in the news?
Not in the news. Weirdness that happened
Today.
True story.
There are 2 parts to the story that are upsetting. One of it, actually perhaps 3 or 4, but the main ones are, 1, you as a child, you should never be thinking about something as serious as bills, or if I'm going to have a meal today, or if I need to work, or where's this money going and coming from, because you are a child. That's one thing. Second thing, you should never need to worry about your own puppy's well-being, especially as an 8-year-old child. I mean, that is what the adults in your life should be worried about, whether they're taking you to the vet. I mean, yes, you have some sort of responsibility, but not to the extent where, brings me to the third sad part, you have to sell your most prized possessions, and those are your Pokemon cards, to pay for your puppy's life-saving vet bills.
Now, the story is about Bryson Kleiman, who is an 8-year-old boy who found out that his 4-month-old puppy needed a very expensive medical treatment to survive. Basically, he got the contagious virus known as parvo, the parvovirus, and the procedure was going to cost roughly around $650 plus future expenses for future treatments. And so, out of desperation, he had a bit of he opened up a yard sale in front of the neighborhood to sell his Pokemon cards in an effort to pay for the medical treatment. Now, some of the neighbors who were concerned about this actually did donate to him $400. They didn't even buy the cards; they just gave him $400 in total. But unfortunately, he did still have to sell those Pokemon cards to help fit the bill. And I kind of agree with you. The puppy would not have the parvovirus if the parents carelessly neglect the fact that they should be vaccinating their pets the second they're born. You know, I learned that the hard way as well. So I can see 2 sides to this story.
So many sides to the story, but at the end of the day, it's just upsetting that a child needs to worry about those things. I know that there are so many people out there in the entire world where children are not being children. And that is just, this is perhaps somewhat first world problems to an extent, because it's about, your pet and rather than your own well-being. But at the same time, let children be children whenever you can. Honestly, I'm still upset about those people as well who saw the Pokemon cards and still bought them rather than just donate it to the kid. I know this child has a sense of responsibility, which is great. It's great that he has that at the age of 8, but you don't need to teach him that by having him sell his Pokemon cards. It's unfair. And also, where were his parents? Where were his parents?
No excuse. But I hope that if there's anybody out there who's reading this story online, could actually reach out to Bryson and donate their collection of Pokemon cards.
That would be really nice.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, that's the least you could do if you have a couple that are just lying around.
I got PlayStation games. I mean, if that's what you want. You know.
I'm not sure. We need to check with Bryson. Maybe he's interested. Maybe he is not. We're going to be taking a short break and we're going to wrap everything up with our final segment, Aisha and Mikhail Suggest. So stay tuned for that and so much more right here on the Afternoon Karak.
It's almost 5 p.m.
That was Afternoon Karak. For dessert,
Aisha and Mikhail suggest.
Time to wrap up the show. And guys, don't forget, you can always tune in to our daily episodes once the show is over. We have them uploaded up on our YouTube channel. Yes, we have a YouTube channel. It's called Pulse 95 Radio. Be sure to support by subscribing to it, as well as tuning to our podcast alternatives. We have SoundCloud, Apple Podcasts, and Rami, Spotify. Just type in Afternoon Karak and you're good to go. But as we're celebrating Happy Best Friend Day, Aisha has got a few words.
Let me just make it something nicer. How about that?
Okay.
This nicer? Feels more warmer because we're talking about best friends, right? And best friends, they are the ones who make your life sweeter, lovelier, and just tolerable, to say the least. It makes all those hard days worth it when you remember that their love is what energizes you. So that's why, even though it's already 5 p.m., we are, 17 hours into the day, you still have a chance to celebrate it by sending your best friend a treat. Get them some flowers if they like flowers. Get them some chocolate. Get them a cake. Get them anything. Get them a handwritten note if you'd like.
The best thing you can do is give them your time.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Give them your time. That is your duty as a best friend, though. But just go an extra mile tonight and give them something a little bit different, just to show their appreciation, just to show that, yes, this person is my favorite person and I'm going to show it to them. I'm going to physically show it to them by giving them something. I know people have different ways of reciprocating love, but I feel like when you have something tangible in your hand, especially whether it's something they like, they like this candy, this chocolate, whatever it is, it's going to make it feel even nicer, make you feel warm and make them feel warm despite the summer weather. Just make you a little bit more fuzzier on the inside. And that is my suggestion for the day. We're going to need to wrap up. Unfortunately, we've got another duo of best friends from Yalla Home. That is Big Hass and Anna Schofield taking over the airwaves here in Sharjah from 5 p.m. all the way till 8 p.m. keeping you entertained only here on Pulse 95.
if you liked this episode of Afternoon Karak, drop a like and subscribe.
Pulse 95.
Be sure to follow us on Instagram for all our daily updates and top stories.